Hey, Samantha?
Yeah, hi Justin, how are you?
Hey, good, how are you?
Good. I really do appreciate you helping me out, it means a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Today, I am going to be having a call with someone who is a supporter of the vlog that Tashina and I work on together. And this person emailed me and asked for my advice on her growing her blog. So I told her we'd have a phone call today, and that's about to happen. Should be pretty interesting, pretty excited to see how it goes. I really have no idea what advice she's looking for, what advice I'm going to give her, so. How's it going?
Pretty good. Just getting done school for the semester, so I have the summer, which is always a good thing. What about yourself?
Yeah, things are going well. What can I help you with?
Okay, so I'm looking to kind of start, I guess, a blog or a site of sorts to kind of attach to my videos just by like breaking things down a little bit more and talking about products and some things. And I didn't know if you could give me some advice as to, you know, what platform or like what site generator is the best one to work with. You know, is it worth investing in a domain name and paying for it? Just kind of like the basic things that would kind of help me set up a site because I kind of don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, so you're doing YouTube and you want to have something basically where you can just put in more information than what you can do in like a YouTube description box.
Definitely. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay, cool. What have you looked at already?
Well, I've tried to, you know, do like some searches on different articles and stuff online, and, you know, everybody talks about doing like WordPress or something called Blogger or like using all of these different sites, but they all have like that name attached to it. So when you get the domain name, you can like purchase it, and I don't know if it's worth doing that. I don't know if using that like structured site is the best thing to do, or is it just to kind of go rogue and start my own from nothing. I don't necessarily know if there's like, I'm not trying to do it to like sell things to people, so I don't necessarily need ads, but of course when you work with companies, sometimes they want you to put them there. I'm just kind of looking for like help with a basic, where do I go if I have no idea what I'm doing?
Right. Okay. And what is your end game here? Like, do you want to be able to advertise? Is this like best case scenario, what are you trying to accomplish?
I think my best case scenario is kind of setting up an environment where people can come and look at things and decide on their own if it's something that they're interested in. And I guess kind of having like the affiliate links that I do have, or like giving them a way to get more information than just what the site itself and that product itself is going to offer them. So not necessarily 100% fully, I'm trying to make money off of you clicking on these ads to go and buy these things, but just a place that people can come when they need a little bit more information than a site can give them, and I can give them in a YouTube description box.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with making money anyway if you're providing a service, right? And your service is great content, right? So
yeah.
I would say one piece of advice, this isn't really something that you asked about, but is to come to, I don't know, maybe not come to terms with that, but definitely accept that as a reality, because the bigger you get, the more you will need that financial backing to be able to continue to put out content. So, excuse me, it's better to start now and kind of wrap your head around like that it's 100% okay to be making money doing what you're doing. As for the platform, we use WordPress, and the reason that we use it, well, I guess honestly, the reason we use it is because Tashina's been using it for like, I don't know, like 15 years or something. At least,
Okay.
Yeah, at least 12 that Logical Harmony has been on it. And then the other advantage to that is that you can actually, like you said, have your own domain name, which looks a lot more professional, especially if brands are going to be working with you. I don't, like obviously I don't like work in PR or work for a brand like that, so I don't know, but I would definitely assume that brands take people a lot more serious when they actually have their own domain. It shows that you take yourself more serious, right? Like you said, there's a little bit of an investment up front, and I think that's maybe part of it. Not to mention, I don't know what your monthly budget is, but it's pretty inexpensive. I mean, WordPress is free, and then your domain name you can get for less than $20 a year, and hosting you can get for about $5 a month, so you're really not looking at a huge investment anyway, but I think it definitely goes a long way. And then you can also, have your email set up to go to that website as well, instead of like a Gmail address, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the domain name and hosting?
So a domain name would be like your web address. So like logicalharmony.net. And then the hosting is the actual service that keeps your website on the internet, like on their servers.
Okay, that makes sense then, because you're buying the domain name, but you have to be able to keep the site running. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so sometimes the same company will sell domain names and provide hosting. That's not how we do it. Like, we don't... Our host is Flywheel, which is completely separate than who we get our domain names from. I've used a couple different domain name purchasers, or sellers, I guess. But anyway, just not the one that we use for our hosting.
Okay. So definitely like you said, that's not a lot of money, but it does show an investment in yourself, and I do agree with that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, when I see somebody saying I'm a blogger or I'm an influencer, and I go to their page and it's like their URL .wordpress or .blogger or whatever, I just think like, okay, you're obviously not serious about this, because you can't spend the $5 a month to have your own domain and your own hosting. So how can you possibly say that you're an actual blogger or an influencer? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Not to mention, with certain platforms, you don't always own the content. I'm not really sure what the terms of service are like for all those other platforms, but I know that with WordPress, we still own our content. So that's pretty important to us. So, yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? Are you still there?
Yeah, sorry. I was writing notes, and I'm trying to be very prudent about it. Another question I have is, how do you handle setting up an initial aesthetic for the brand and for your site, and then when that kind of evolves and changes as the person does? Because I know I'm not necessarily super fickle, but I do change what I like a lot of times, and I don't want my content to be something that I was into a year ago when I changed as a person. So how do you handle that kind of transition from different looks? Or do you kind of just, even if you don't necessarily like the place that it's at, you just kind of keep it the same throughout the entire journey?
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and that's a really good question, and that's something that we've been going through for a while, because like you said, you want to have your site branded in a certain way that reflects you, and something that's going to last the test of time, I guess is a way of putting it. So I don't know that I really have a good answer for that. We've just kind of figured it out as we've gone, and then tried to go back and update old assets. Like, for example, if you go look at some of our older blog posts or even our older thumbnails for videos on YouTube, the hold on, I gotta get this cat out of here. She's like all up in my business. You will see different fonts being used, you'll see different colors, and that's just because we haven't gone back and updated everything yet. So I think when you come to it, you have to kind of decide what's worth updating and changing and what's worth leaving the same, because it's all going to come down to how much time you have. As far as deciding on your aesthetic, I would say put a lot of thought into it up front so that when you finally do go live with your site, it's something that you'll be okay with for a year or two. Because changing all that stuff can be easy, but not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you could do to keep it easier. It just depends on how, I mean, again, it depends on your aesthetic that you're going for your site, right? Like, if all your thumbnails are just images and they don't have any text at all, then if you rebrand your site and change your scheme, like your color scheme and that sort of thing, then those images aren't going to be affected. But if all of your thumbnails have text and colors on them, well, those colors are probably all going to go together as well as that text, and so if you change things down the line, that could really be impacted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely makes sense. So put a little bit of thought into it first before you get started, so you're not like 2 weeks down the road, oh my god, I hate this.
Exactly. It's like think about if you're gonna start a new school year and you're gonna go shopping for a bunch of clothes. Like, you're not just gonna buy a bunch of random stuff, right? Like you said, it's gonna reflect where you're at in your life at that point and your interests and the things that you think look good aesthetically. And while you can buy new clothes later, you might buy stuff that might not really fit into that aesthetic. So you kind of want to try to find something before you start shopping.
Definitely. And I like that analogy. That was fun. It made a lot of sense.
Awesome.
I guess the last question that I have kind of goes back to the original one in terms of the money thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you pick and choose what partnerships you do? Because a lot of times, like, you get sent these requests and stuff and they ask things of you, and I know for sure, like, what brands I want to work with and what brands that I don't, but how do you know kind of the line between if they want you to feed your viewers or the people watching something versus your actual opinion on it, if that makes sense? So, like, if a company comes to me and wants me to say this and about the product, but I don't believe in it, is it worth sticking with them if they've given me creative freedom in the past or plan to give me creative freedom in the future, I guess is my question.
Okay, so that's kind of a two-part question, I think. Let me answer first by telling you what we do with Logical Harmony. One of the things we did was that maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, Tashina and I sat down and we actually wrote out a statement saying, not a public statement, but just for the two of us, saying these are the kinds of brands that we want to work with, here's the mission statement of Logical Harmony, and we've used that as a guiding platform for, we use that to guide us in whatever decisions we make with the brands that we partner with. So that's one way, I would say, is sit down and say, what exactly do I want to get out of this? Where do I want to be? What sort of brands do I want to work with? Like, obviously, we don't work with brands that we cannot verify ourselves are cruelty-free. So that's, you know, like a pretty easy one for us, is if they can't verify through our process that they don't test on animals, or that, you know, their products aren't tested on animals somewhere. If they can't answer all of our questions about it, we just don't work with them. It's pretty simple. And then the other thing is, I think you have to really, really ask yourself, would I be using this product if it wasn't a partnership? That's pretty important too. The example that I really love to give, because it's a real life example, is one day Tashina got an email, and I don't know if it was through a PR company or through 7-Eleven themselves, but they wanted to pay us like $600 for Tashina to go to 7-Eleven and buy a cup of coffee and then talk about it on Instagram. And we sat down to talk about it because we don't have a lot of money. We're working really, really hard to be making Logical Harmony a sustainable thing. We spent about $18,000 on Logical Harmony last year. And yeah, buying products to review, and you know, as our site grows bigger, we have to pay more for hosting, and a lot of our expenses have gone up. But the point is, we really, really could have used the $600, and we sat down and we said, would Tashina be going to 7-Eleven and buying a cup of coffee and talking about it on Instagram if she wasn't being paid $600? And the answer was no. So we didn't do it. It just wasn't authentic.
Right.
So I think that's a good question to ask yourself, is would I be doing this partnership? Would I be working with this brand and creating this piece of content if I, you know, if this wasn't the situation? You brought up a really good point though, which was if they give me creative freedom. So that's kind of interesting, because if a brand says, hey, try this product, and you can say literally whatever you want about it, then you don't really have to be worried as much, because you can say, I tried this product and it sucks. And in that case, you're still being authentic, and you're doing this partnership. I don't really know that that would be the route that we would take personally. Usually when we try a product from a brand, when Tashina tries a product from a brand and she's not thrilled with it, we'll usually let the brand know, and we'll say, hey, look, if you still want us to talk about your product, we will, but these are all the things we're going to say about it. And oftentimes the brand says, you know what, no, just don't talk about it at all. Yeah. And that's not to say, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can finish. You finish. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's not to say that we don't ever talk about brands that Tashina doesn't like, because we definitely do, or products that she doesn't like, we definitely do that. It's just that when it's really, really bad, usually we give the brand the option to just not be talked about at all.
So, like, that's something, I don't know if you've heard of the brand, Cosmetics. They're from Australia. They're, sold on Pettyboard and, everything, and they've sent me a couple of products to try, and it's just, like, I don't necessarily really like them, and I don't know, like, how to, you know, if I tell the brand that I don't like them, or if I do the video where I talk about the products, and I'm like, well, they're not my thing, you know, and I just didn't know the kind of best route to go with that sort of thing. But that makes sense to kind of like go back to them if it's really bad and be like, hey, you probably don't want me to talk about this, so
Yeah.
you want to like opt out kind of thing. And I think that that's definitely something to think about. And I also really liked what you said about if it wasn't a partnership, would I be talking about it, or would I be working with them, or would it, you know,
Yeah.
would I be trying that kind of thing? And that's something to think about, because I didn't necessarily think about that before either, is the natural and organic aspect of it. But I like what you were saying about the mission statement, or like giving like a set of questions to think about when I'm working with a brand. Is, would I use it? Do I want to work with them? Where do I want to be as a person a little bit down the road? And that's definitely not something I thought 100% about. It was kind of interesting to hear that, actually.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how much it has helped us throughout the last couple of years. Yeah, it's helped a lot. And then also, you had a question, well, I guess kind of along the same lines in regard to choosing who you work with, is that there will be times when you won't get to choose. Like, for example, your advertisers on YouTube, or if you run Google Ads on your site, like, you'll have a little bit of control with Google Ads, but not so much. And so that's another thing to consider, is that if you really, really, really want to make sure that none of, like, for example, L'Oreal's products are being shown on your YouTube channel, then you just can't monetize because there's no way you're going to know, and you won't have any control over what advertisers run there or potentially on Google Ads as well. So that's another thing to consider, is that you have to have a certain spot to draw the line at, and that's kind of where we draw ours, is that we need advertisers to be able to run Logical Harmony, and some of those platforms for advertising we just don't have control over.
It's funny that you said that. I did that on a video probably about 4 or 5 posts ago, and people were telling me that there was a Maybelline ad before the video, before they started watching it, and I was like, nope, and I took it off, and I just won't do it anymore, because I'm very, very adamant about you cannot test on animals. It at least has to be cruelty-free. Because, like, I've done videos with, like, the Anastasia palette, and it's cruelty-free, but it's not vegan. There are shades in there that have carmine in it. But because it is cruelty-free, that's the reason that I've done the video, because I feel bad that it's not 100% vegan, and I don't use it on myself. Like, I've used it a few times in the video, and I keep it in my makeup kit because I do freelance artistry. But I mean, as long as it has cruelty-free, it's gonna be okay to put on the channel. But like, because they showed Maybelline, I was like, no, I can't do it. Like, that's 100% where I draw the line with that.
Yeah, so that would be something to put on your list of requirements or deal breakers. For sure.
No, I didn't. That was kind of like my last question until you brought something up in that. And you were talking about that you guys grew in terms of the expenses that Logical Harmony had in the last year. Is this technically considered, I guess, a business for me? And do I need to, file like taxes and keep track of that kind of thing for this? Or is that not something that I should worry about just yet, because it's not necessarily an established kind of job?
I can give you my thoughts on that. Just understand that obviously I'm not an attorney, and I'm obviously not an accountant, so I really, take what I say with a grain of salt and double check it with the people that do that for a profession. I think that there's a limit to when you have to start filing taxes for something. I want to say that it's like $600 a year. Again, I'm really not positive on this. I can tell you that we run Logical Harmony as an LLC, a limited liability company, and Logical Harmony does its own, taxes and that sort of thing. And a big part of that, is, like I said, our large expenses, right? We want to keep Logical Harmony separate from what we do for as long as we can, so that we're not living off of it, and it's not living off of us, if that makes sense. So in the beginning, Logical Harmony was definitely living off of us, because it did not have the money to sustain itself. And now the last couple years we've been breaking even. And that's not to say that we're not bringing in a decent amount of money. We've been doing a lot of upgrades, equipment upgrades and that sort of thing. And so Logical Harmony buys our equipment, and then because we have so much expensive equipment, then Logical Harmony has business insurance, and it's this whole thing. But I mean, I don't know that you have to worry about it right now. When you're just getting started, it's just going to me, it would just be another big expense. But if it feels more comfortable for you to talk with a CPA, a public accountant, certified public accountant, then, definitely do that. Or find a small business attorney in your area that will sit down and have a 20-minute conversation with you and help you figure out whether or not it's something you need to do. Just, obviously remember too that those people are going to be making money off of your business. So
right.
It benefits them, but if you find the right person, they're going to be super honest with you and let you know what's best for you and not just what's best for them, and that's the kind of attorney you want anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So, any other questions?
No, sir. I believe
Cool.
Have for you today.
Right on. Well, let me know if you have any questions in the future. We can do this again.
All right, Justin. Well, I do thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate kind of getting a little bit more insight from somebody who's actually doing it and not just a computer tech like my father is. So.
Awesome. Well, you're very welcome. This was fun.
All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. You too, Samantha. Bye. That was pretty good. I think that went really well. I hope that she benefited from it, and it sounded like she did. I hope that if you're watching this and those are questions that you've had, you benefited from this as well. The end.